Swag, 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 swag.
Hey yo, we out here, get this, Andre.
Let's get it, man. Sine and cosine, sine and cosine. It's time to grab sine and cosine. Sine and cosine, sine and cosine. It's time to grab sine and cosine. Yo, we're here to talk about a trigonomic function, even though it may cause some destruction. First, you gotta find the amplitude number, so everyone take a second off Tumblr. The amplitude can do two things: shrink or stretch the graph vertically. If positive, the graph will stretch. If negative, the graph will shrink. The amplitude is easy to find. The number before cosine, now don't be blind.
Sweat.
Hit it.
Sine and cosine, sine and cosine. It's time to graph sine and cosine. Sine and cosine, sine and cosine. It's time to graph sine and cosine. I'm talking about sine. All you guys do is whine, but it's not that hard, so let me take down your guard. First find the period. It's 2 pi over b. You already know I'm a straight G. The period is in radians, not degrees, so make it like a mouse and eat this cheese. The period represents itself throughout the graph. I'm gonna save your time studying, call it life rap.
Whoa! Sine and
get this,
cosine,
bruh.
sine and cosine. It's time to grab sine and cosine. Yo, I'ma give you a gift, teaching you how to do the phase shift. The phase shift is what moves the graph left and right. This will make your math skills tight. Just remember the phase shift is negative c over b. Remember that and your test scores will scream yippee. Vertical shift moves the graph up and down. Know that and you won't look like a clown. End of the equation is where it's found, not on this merry-go-round. Hey Marty, hit this real quick, hit this, man.
Sine and cosine, sine and cosine. It's time to graph sine and cosine. Sine and cosine, sine and cosine. It's time to graph sine and cosine. The origin is where it starts. Watch out for these deadly farts. Cosine starts at the amplitude. Don't give me that attitude. The graph looks like a wave, so you better behave, or Santa won't get you any presents.
No presents.
One period is divided into 4 points. Pretend to be Scooby-Doo. Go zoinks, up and down. The amplitude number. Don't go into a deep slumber.
Whoa! Yo, we're not done yet. Back to back.
If sine or cosine are negative, the graph will flip. This rap is almost over, we're about to dip.
First point in cosine, you must account for phase, amplitude, and vertical. I entered Spiritus class, learn, now I'm mathematical.
For sine, use vertical and phase shift to plot your first point. Lil Dre and D-Ro, we in this joint.